And this video is going to be all Q&A, all about eBay. I say here at Kajun Reseller, you give me an offer and I'll take it. You got the dollars? We got the offer? Let them have it with no problem. Let them have it with no problem. In this video series that I'll be doing on the how-tos, these are from my morning shows for those who cannot make the morning show. And I've been doing series on how-tos on different platforms. And this one will be Q&A, all about eBay. And it just so happens that on the eBay Q&A, all about eBay is with the Bargain Effects Tommy 2.0. And what I'm doing is I'm recreating those live shows in my pre-recorded how-to playlist. So I'll be having those for each of the shows that I do during the week. So hopefully this will help you. That way, if you have any questions that are pertaining to what we talked about in the show, you can also do the comment section of the video down below, and I'll be glad to add that to my list of questions if you may have them. And hopefully we'll see you in the next morning show. If this is your first time tripping over my channel, I want to thank you so much for coming by. And also, if you've been returning, I want to thank you for your continuing support to the channel. But everything that I'm going to ask you is free. Right below this video, that word subscribe, make sure you subscribe to the channel, especially if you like the content. And also, after you do that, make sure right next to it there's the notifications. Make sure you hit all three, because the very top one is where you get all your notifications at. Then also hit me the thumbs up. That does help the channel. But most importantly, give me those comments below, because guess what? That helps the channel, but it also helps me interact with you, because I do answer each and every one of those comments. I inventoried in January and found 9 items at least, and 2 already sold. Yeah, no, I don't understand that. Why they do that. And I think another thing too, you might want to be careful. And this is just an example of what I caught myself doing one time, and I check every time I do it. If you happen to get a load of, or you do a batch of old listings, and you go to cancel it, and then you go to relist them or sell similar, be careful, because if you happen to have had multiples and you relist it and you had multiples that, say for example, you had 5 of one item originally, and say you sold one during the duration of it was listed, and you go to relist it as sell similar, what's going to happen is it's going to take the original listing. So also remember that. Make sure you go back and check the quantity of what you have of that item, because sometimes I've noticed that when I did that for a while, I noticed that I didn't go back and change the quantity. So it had it looking like I had more than I should have. So be careful with that as well, because I have noticed that. All right, Johnny, how long before eBay drops an item? I hear that listings are disappearing after a while, but I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I have mine automatically on relist. And then what I do is I'll go in and anything that's too old, and I'll take and resell similar. But I've never heard of them automatically dropping after a certain time. I didn't know they did that. If they did, maybe Tommy's here. Maybe he can say something. I don't know. I've never seen that happen. I don't know. Patrick has a question. I've never heard. If you end a listing and want to relist it, should you use sell similar or relist? Which counts towards the magical ticker of, okay, from what I understand, if you're relisting it, it keeps the original numbers on that account or that item. If you sell similar, then you have a whole new fresh start. You get a whole new, every item gets every item you list for listings get a separate number, a listing number or item number. And from my understanding, if you did sell relist it, it's going to keep the old one. And then again, say for example, you had a lot of watches on it, and all that information stays with a relist. But with a sell similar, it starts all over. It's like a fresh new listing. It's like you're just starting it over again, and then you get a whole new item number. And then what happens is once you do that, then it becomes a new item that they kind of push because it's a new listing. That is my understanding on how those two work. And how to this and how that. Okay, I don't know how long till they drop a listing. I sell similar too often. Okay, Tommy, I have a question then. And welcome, by the way, Tommy. The question was in reference to earlier, and I don't know if you heard it, in reference to the sell similar or relist. Which one would be better for the algorithm for eBay? Congratulations. Okay, I use sell similar, so I get a new boost and still listings. If you cancel order, it will depend on the viewer and watch history. All right, so the question was, and then I think I said it right. I hope I did. When you do sell similar, doesn't it give you a whole new number and a whole new push? Whereas if you do resell or relist, it gives you the same number and kind of like all the same history of that item. Wouldn't it be better to go ahead and sell similar so you get a whole new batch number, item number, and all that stuff as well? Try this again. Like it's new. Here's none other than Tommy 2.0, the Bargain FX.
What is happening?
You had a rookie mistake over there, you.
Yeah, I sure did. I forgot to mute YouTube.
All right, May 15th, Jeffrey. I'm going to put it on there right now for you. So for everybody who may not know, he's always in the chats. He's very busy. He does have a business he runs on eBay. Well, I think it's Des that does it now, but I'll let him talk to you all about that. So for those who may not know you, because now they can put a name with a face, I've met you when I first started YouTube to begin with. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
I'm just your average everyday reseller type dude. We converted over to selling mostly vinyl decals and graphics. Now we're expanding. We're getting into wood burning.
Oh,
yeah, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Des is actually taking over the Prints by TV portion of the business.
Okay.
And I'll do like the background work, the bookkeeping and stuff like that, but she's actually going to run the day-to-day operations of that. And I'm getting back into reselling. So my eBay store, the Bargain Effect, has been just kind of in an idle mode for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I'll be starting that up from scratch. I did buy some inventory I've been sitting on. So I'm going to be documenting, basically starting from scratch.
Right.
And reestablishing my store. What's cool about it now, I think that'll give it a different perspective, is I feel I'm very good at reselling and I know eBay and the platforms very well. So I will be starting with actually knowing what I'm doing versus the person that's starting that doesn't. So I think it could help some people that are just getting started into it.
Now, I have a question for you. How long have you, because I know when I first met you over 3 years ago, when I first started getting into, actually it was in July 2019 is when I started watching YouTube before I even got into it. How long have you not only been doing eBay, but how long you were on YouTube for prior to you updating your stuff now?
YouTube, fairly fresh. I think YouTube, I'd have to look at my channel, but I think it's only been like 3 or 4 years and nothing real consistent.
Okay.
You know, it's always been just kind of maybe come on, do a show, then not do a show. And because what happens is I get busy and YouTube isn't, well, I should say it wasn't a priority for me, you know, up until this point. But now I'm starting to think, you know, I always felt I didn't have enough knowledge to make it valuable, and I didn't want to give wrong knowledge or misinformation. So now I feel I'm educated enough to where I can actually provide a value, and maybe provide a value up and beyond. What does Des always tell me? You're real good at taking the technical specs of eBay, because I have to break it down for her, and putting it in a lay term that she can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So she thinks I'd be helpful to the people that don't know. When people get on and you're watching YouTube videos and they're talking about ROI and this, and the new people don't know what's a ROI. You know?
Exactly.
So,
and you know what's weird is when I first started watching you, I could have sworn the way you carried yourself that you've been on there for years. You know, not knowing you had just recently started when I did. You know.
No, actually, the first time I went on YouTube, I remember it very clearly, was with Hip Flippin' Mama.
Yep.
And it was in the morning. And man, I was so nervous, so zoned out, and not really knowing what to do. But then as I became comfortable with it, I'm a social person. We met in person, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
I'm very social in person. So what I did is I just forgot that I got this camera right here. I'm just talking to Johnny, you know, and
Yeah.
the people in the chat, they're just listening. And that's one of my biggest faults with YouTube is I forget to look at the chat.
So again, if you have any questions about eBay right now, Tommy is going to be, and from what I understand, he's been telling us this in the chat. He is going to start looking at doing some. In fact, you have been doing some reviews on eBay stores. Talk a little bit about that and promote that.
Yeah, I have. I'm collecting people that would like to have their store reviewed by me. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not a professional. I can only go based on my personal experiences and my opinions. And my experiences and my opinions came from eBay's best practices that they list on their website that you should use. Because I figure if eBay's telling you this is how you should do it, that is probably better than any YouTuber that's going to tell you, you know. So I know there's variations and not everything works exactly the same for everybody, but I base all my trial and errors off what eBay says. I mean, they have a best practice list for everything.
Yeah, I know when there's comments that come in the chat, I only give the answers of what I experience. Not to say that I know it, but it's just something that I if I know that I've been through it, I'll share that experience of what I did or what it took me to get through it. But
Right.
not everybody's going to do their way of business the same way. But what's good about it, you can take something from everybody and try it and see what works best for you.
And that's what I did at the beginning. You know, I took a piece of this person's information, a piece of that person's information, and just made a conglomeration of what worked for me. Now, like when I was doing the one-off reselling, like most of the people in chat here do, it's a totally different operation than selling our decals that are endless replenishable.
Right.
On eBay. It's two totally different formats of selling on the same platform.
Right.
You know, so people that sell the one-off everyday household items is going to have a different way of doing business than the person that's selling high-end antiques. You know, so you just got to kind of work with what you're doing and find what works best. But one thing that's in common among all the things is eBay's best practices.
Yeah.
What these suggest is going to be most successful on their site.
Correct. Now, I'm wondering if you ever had this issue where, or you feel this way. I had some people come to me like when, I don't know if you remember when I used to do the Holla Dollar challenge. It was the like what you call that again? March Madness.
I remember the name and I remember it, but I don't remember exactly how it worked.
Well, the reason I say that is because again, people were giving their links of items to sell.
Right.
And as they were live, they asked me for critiquing their listing. And for me, like I told them, this is what I see. You know, this is what I don't do. And for example, if you see an item and it was a Holla Dollar, I would say, look, you may want to try this because it was a blurry picture. Or they had it on a black background on those things that they show for jewelry. And it was full of cat hair. It was full of hair, full of dirt.
Yes.
Clean all that stuff kind of out of there so you can have a better picture. And some of them got upset with me for, you know, it's like, well, you asked, I'm telling you to try to help you, not hurt you. And so what are your thoughts on that if that happens, you know?
And pictures, I feel, are very, very important. Yeah. Because it's telling you, especially when you have background there. Now, everything we have is white background. It always has. But there's people that use just regular background. They'll shoot it on their bed. They'll shoot it on their table, which it works. It's not going to work for Google. It will work for eBay. And when I'm looking for use things, I take the background into consideration for the item I'm purchasing. Because like you say, if I want to buy a hoodie or something that I like, I don't want to buy it from the guy that took a picture on the floor, which there's nothing wrong. Some people have very clean floors, but like you say, that has cat hair dust bunnies in the corner. And, you know, I don't. If I see I'm a smoker, but if I see an ashtray in the background, I know that's probably coming to me smelling like smoke already.
Right.
You know,
how can they get in touch with you if they feel that maybe they are feeling a great sense of comfort being with you on going through their eBay store? How do they get in touch with you?
okay. Most people have been doing Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter. So just about any social media platform, except for TikTok. I haven't made that leap yet, you know, but just the Bargain Effect or Prince by TVE, either one, I can be reached at. It's real simple. The reviews I'm doing pre-recorded because, like I say, I'm trying to create a series. So what people are doing is they're sending me links to their stores. I'm recording a review of their store, and then I'm going to upload it. If they have further questions after that, or there's something they didn't understand, more than free to reach out to me, and then I'll get together with them one-on-one and explain it, you know, because a lot of people don't understand the SEO. A lot of people don't understand pictures for eBay versus pictures for eBay that are going to get on Google search.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
You know. So and I'm not looking to create courses. I'm not looking to sell anybody anything.
Right.
I enjoy helping people, and it's reselling. I love talking reselling, and personally, Destiny doesn't want to talk to me anymore about it. She's tired of it. She's not a reseller. let me say something about the word reseller. See, the word reseller has a very bad stigma to it. You know, I have been told by friends, families, man, that ain't a real job. Reseller, that's not a real job. Get a real job. So I changed my terminology. It's on all our hats, jackets, shirts, business cards, and everything. I am not a reseller. I am a product relocation specialist.
And if you ever need decals, check out Tommy. I even got, are you still doing the medicine cup, the coffee mugs?
Yeah, we actually just bought a brand new sublimation printer. So we can do the coffee cups, the permanent typographics on shirts. And we're going to be expanding that out. So, yep, we still do the coffee cups. We're going in full color stickers instead of just single colored signed vinyl. But I came on to explain that Sell Similar relist thing.
Yes. If Patrick's still here, he was the one that had that question. But again, everybody else too.
I figure we probably should address that before everybody's like, well, he came on, he didn't even talk about it.
Well, then you come on and the conversations went all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, how I do it and take it into consideration with the Sell Similar versus the relist. If I have an item that's just stale, it's just not moving, the view count isn't there, nobody's watching it, I will end it and Sell Similar so it gets that fresh bump. But I also just don't end it and then click Sell Similar. I mean, edit it up. Obviously, if it wasn't getting the traction before, something is not catching people's eyes. So work on that title, rearrange some pictures, maybe take some better pictures, you know, and then sell it similar, get that 48-hour boost that eBay is going to give you on it. And that's when I use the Sell Similar. The only time I really use a relist, like you say, if somebody orders it and cancels it, if it was a low view count, there's no watchers, I'll use the Sell Similar. But if it had, say, 5-6 watchers on it, it's getting decent views, I will relist it, because those people that are watching it, if you use the Sell Similar, they're gone. They don't know where that item went.
Okay.
And maybe they're waiting for payday. Maybe they're waiting for the first of the month. Maybe they're waiting for a gift for somebody's birthday. Oh, if it's still available, I'm going to get it then. You know, so if it's got a history of watchers, I relist. If there's not much of a history on it, then I use the Sell Similar.
Okay, and I think I answered that correctly for Patrick, because he had asked that question, what would be the best for that? Yeah. And I think that's why when I said that is because for me, I kind of look and see how many watchers I have, how many people are actually watching it. If there was very little or none, then yes, I will Sell Similar.
Right.
But when I do that, also one of the things I want to point out too, like you were saying, I always try to either rearrange the wording, and that's one of the things a lot of people have a misconception on the title. Don't make it sound like a sentence. Just have words together that mean what that item is, but sometimes you do have to move them around to get a new, fresh look on it. Also, go in and check, for example, did you put it in a category? Did you put it in a category that would be working best for that item? Also, make sure, check your descriptions. You know, did you leave something out that's about that? Make sure all that's done too, because I think that's what helps. Also, when you relist it, it's a whole new listing. You know, you changed it, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And titling is very important when it comes to eBay. Yeah, it took a while for me to get used to, because you want your title to sound like a title of a book. But there's so many times that I see people that are using words that don't matter. They're just taking up space because nobody's searching for the word of. eBay doesn't know the difference when you're using character space between a singular and a plural. They treat it the same. So if you're selling a set of coffee cups and you say a set of coffee cups, it doesn't matter if you say cup or cups. If people are looking for a set of coffee cups, it doesn't matter. So if you want that extra character to describe something else about those cups.
Oh, so you would say something like coffee cup set instead of set of coffee cups?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense.
To maximize your characters. And you, like I say, you don't want to use words like of and the, because nobody's searching for those words. You want to think about it. If I'm going to buy whatever it is, this coffee cup, you know, what are you going to search it under? You're going to look for a prescription cup, prescription coffee cup, prescription 16 ounce, you know, it's just, you want to use keywords.
Unless
that's
it's
all
Lord
part
of the
your
Rings, I think. If it's Lord of the Rings, you really can't leave out the of or
if
the
it's part of a title, like a movie
Right.
poster,
Sorry, I'm that guy.
a DVD,
I'm sorry.
yeah, something like that. If it's actually part of the title, but just in, like, I see people that will put a hilarious shirt. How often do you go on eBay and say, I'm looking for a hilarious shirt? You might use funny. Funny would actually be a better word.
Yeah.
Than hilarious, you know. And that's just what you got to see. How would you search for it? Think of 3 different terms that you would use to search for your product and use them terms. Don't make it sound like a book title.
Now, I have something I was going to say, and I saw the comment come in, so I'm going to tie this together. One of the things that I am deterred with when I see somebody's listings is emojis. And what is your thoughts on this thing with the new inbox new inbox or NIB, new seal, those kind of things? What is your thoughts on using that in a title?
When they're using like the NWT and stuff, I've never done it, because I believe most people that are buying don't even know what that means.
You're right.
You know, I'm not going to use the whole new inbox. I'll put new. I might put sealed, but I'm not going to use the whole all the abbreviations.
Yeah.
That is actually a really good point. I was just thinking about that the other day when I was listing something that was new with tags, and instead of putting NWT, I decided for the first time to put new. And I think that's going to make a difference in my listing. I mean, this was on Poshmark, but most of the shoppers that come in, you know, they come in from like the Google, you know, and they'll be like, oh, okay, let me click on that, and then I'll take them to Poshmark.
Well,
That's very good.
For the first 6 months when I got into reselling, I was a reseller. And I didn't know what NWT meant. I had to look it up on Google.
Yeah, or like PUC.
You know, so it's
yeah.
So just your average buyer that's not familiar with all them abbreviations has no clue what that means.
And that brings me to the point of, I think on Poshmark too, I'm not 100% sure. Do you have like a section that you do descriptions?
Yes.
My opinion is
there's a very long description
for all the extra stuff you want to put, and try to use, because a lot of different platforms only give you so many characters in the title. So try to use it to the best of your ability, but take that information that's extra, like new with tags, new sealed and things like that, and use it in the description bar. Because how many, I know I do, I don't know how many don't, but I think there's a lot that don't read the description.
Right.
And I think that's a thing that people are not taking advantage of.
Yeah, I
And
came on it.
Wonder Woman's absolutely right too on eBay. You're picking when you're listing whether it's new or pre-owned.
Yep.
So I mean, if somebody's looking for something new, even if you don't have new in the title, it's still going to come up because you have it classified as new.
Correct.
Yeah, Poshmark has that same distinction. Yeah, where you just hit like new or not new. That's it.
Well, it's the same thing with Etsy and Mercari. Now, Yvonne has a question. Do white backgrounds versus black backgrounds make a difference on photos?
Yes, absolutely. On eBay, it does.
Yeah,
absolutely does. To an extent. If you're selling fast moving product on eBay, if you're going to sell, if you feel this item is going to sell within the next 30 days, it doesn't really matter. You just want it to look nice, but you want your product to be front and center. Don't get distractions with all the background prettiness. If you want your ISM, like if you have replenishables and you want it to make Google listings, which takes about 30 days, then you want a white background because Google's only going to accept white backgrounds in their shopping category. You can go to Google Images and you'll find all kinds of them. But if you want it to come up under their shopping, then it's got to have a white background. It's got to look like a picture from Walmart or Menards or something like that. That's just your item with a white background.
right.
May I chime in on this one?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
As someone who sells a lot of clothing, I can tell you that I have two different colored backgrounds. I have a white one and I have a blue one. And it's because you can't put a white piece of clothing on a white background and get a good photograph. And you can't put a black piece of clothing on like a black background and get a good photograph. So, I mean, it's as far as like the color of the item goes, if it's like ivory or white or really light floral pattern or something like that, or like a white pair of satin shoes, I'll drop that blue background on it and it just makes it stick out more. So I would say that there's no one hard and true. On Posh, you can put any kind of background. I could go in my backyard. I've actually photographed stuff on the deck before I had a lighting booth. But I think the important thing is to have the least amount of crap in the background as possible.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna use,
and I absolutely agree with Glams because when I was doing clothing, I had a blue like satiny.
Yeah, that's just my personal opinion
that we had put because, like you say, a picture is going to do no good if your object blends in with the background. So there are cases, and that's why I say it's not. There's not just a one. That's it. This is how it's done. This is the absolute way.
Now, Yvonne put this about her jewelry, and the only time I use black, usually it's only a very small, like if I have silver jewelry or anything that's got a thing that will bleed out on a white background, I'll use it, but I want to make sure that the item is sitting on a smaller piece that's black or gray, but my rest of my background is white, just enough to get that color so that jewelry can pop, depending on what it is and where I put it. So yeah, that is correct. I do use it, but not a lot.
And when I'm talking about photos, I'm primarily eBay. You know, I mean, I sell on Marketplace. We sell on Etsy, which I actually use two totally different photo formats for Etsy because Etsy wants you to use the cozy, comforting looking photos, you know, so it does depend on your platforms as well.
And a photo box is great because then you really get that all the different colors bouncing off those walls in the photo box. That helps you definitely constrict all that light to that item.
Right. They work great for not having shadows.
Correct. Gray is better for making colors pop. And it all depends on the product, especially when you're dealing with jewelry. Yeah, and it can make a big difference, especially if you're doing something like a silver piece on a white background, it's going to bleed out. So you got to think of that too.
I would say the best advice I can give you is, you know, take the picture and see if it would stand out. See if it stands out. If it looks like it's kind of blending together, or if you hold your phone away or your camera away and it's harder to see from there, then I would probably, you know, maybe change up the background a little bit and see if you can get a better something that'll make it stand out more. Yeah.
And John makes a great point because one of the things I hate if I'm looking for something on eBay, anything on any platform, and you go to see a photo of a listing, this is what I hate right here. It's the items that are listed in the main picture. It's so blurry that you can't see what it is.
Yes.
Do that. At least make another one of your pictures better to put on the main page of your photo, and let that be the part. If that's what you want to do, put it in your other photos. Now eBay lets you do up to 24 pictures now. So why waste that blurry picture on something you're trying to push unless you don't want to sell it? Maybe would be the only reason you want to use an out of focus blurry picture. You can't even see what it is. Yeah.
Yep. And learn your camera. Learn your camera. Take all my pictures are done at 2000 by 2000 pixels. eBay likes a square picture. You want it, that's
every one of my pictures for a Poshmark I take on this.
Yep, the cameras in phones are better than a lot of the point and shoot cameras that you buy now. And with like jewelry, we sold jewelry, and I could not get a nice crispy picture until I learned how to use the macro feature on my camera. And once you turn on the macro for close-ups, man, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I have to do that for like materials tags and size tags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just get to learn your camera. You know, I went out when I decided to take eBay to the legit level and file it as a business and everything. I went out and I was like, man, I need photo lights and drop backgrounds, diffuser umbrellas to take up all this space. All that stuff is sitting in the attic now because I use a white window shade and a $14 daylight shop light from Walmart, and I get the best pictures.
Well, that's why I tell everybody when they first starting out, don't go buy all the things you think you might use. Use what you have already to do the best at what you can. And if you feel that you want to go and buy the extra this and an extra that, or more of this and more of that, or whatever it is that you want, try to use what you have already so you don't spend all that money. Make your money first so that way you can put it right back into the business if that's what you want to do.
You can start and run an entire eBay, Etsy. I don't know about Poshmark if you have to have a computer or not, but you can run an entire eBay business off of this right here.
You can actually, I do all my listings from my phone too. I never have to touch I don't have to touch my laptop. I can list from any room in this house on my phone. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It's a pretty easy platform, but I was like, the first probably year that I did reselling, I would just wait for a sunny day and take stuff out on my back deck and just flat lay everything, you know, because
and sunlight is your absolute best light. All these light bulbs that we buy for our photos, they're just trying to duplicate the natural sunlight.
Yeah.
So everything was against like this, pine wood thing. And I'm like, I got what I got, dude. I got what I got. But yeah, sunlight, if you can't afford, a good fake light, sunlight is the best.
Yeah.